Buying property in Spain can be super exciting, but your dream can quickly become a nightmare if you don't do things the right way. In this video, I'm going to tell you about 4 things that you shouldn't do when buying a property here in Spain. Let's get right into it. If you're new here, my name is Jonny. I'm originally from the UK, but I've been living and working in Madrid for the past 5 years. On this channel, I talk a lot about life here in Spain, about travel, about personal finance and investing, and property, as well as someone who has bought properties, my own home, and some storage units here in Spain as investment properties. So the first don't when buying properties in Spain is don't buy a property without consulting with a lawyer. Now, there are lawyers or attorneys in Spain that are specialized in real estate and property law, and as such will be able to walk you through detailed documents like the nota simple, which is a summary document of the property. They'll be able to walk you through a sales contract, a reservation contract for purchase, all that kind of stuff. And beyond that, they'll be able to highlight any potential issues or flaws with the property or with the contract, for example, such as unclear wording, such as terms of the contract that could be adjusted so that they're more equally balanced or that they're more in your favor. They can identify potential issues with the property. For example, if it hasn't passed the technical inspection that older properties are due to pass every 10 years, if I'm not mistaken. They can highlight if there are any charges or debts against the property, like for example, if there's an ongoing construction or ongoing debt with the comunidad, the equivalent of like the homeowners association in the US basically, and possibly other restrictions as well, like for example, if it's a vivienda de protección oficial, which is like a protected property where, you know, there are pricing constraints involved and, you know, transactions with such properties have to be done a particular way. And as well, they can obviously verify like the state of the property as well to make sure that everything is legit and that it's not just a house that someone built on some random land, and that the property is in the registro de la propiedad, which is the property registry in Spain. It's very important to go with a lawyer because as much as you might have a trusted real estate agent or you might be working with a property agent who seems trustworthy, you know, you think they've got your best interests in mind. At the end of the day, even if they are a trustworthy, well-reputable agent, they work typically in the interests of the seller. And so it's always good for you as the buyer to have someone who can represent your best interests as well, who can help you understand the legalese, who can challenge some of the terms that you're not necessarily sure what they mean, or if they're not exactly in your best interest. Like in my case, for instance, when I bought this property, a lawyer was able to identify that I should have more time to be able to get a mortgage approved before like the reservation contract expires essentially. So they essentially extended that by another 15 days after reviewing it. So make sure you get a lawyer and a good reputable one who will have your best interests in mind. The next thing not to do when buying a property is a concept in Spanish known as pagar en B, which to explain this in simple terms is cash in hand for part of the purchase price or transferring a separate amount to the seller. But more often than not, due to the amounts of money that we're talking about here, the seller's going to want it in cash. Let me give you a practical example of how this might pay out. Let's say that someone wants to go and buy a property and the property is listed for 140,000 euros. Contact the agent and they say, yeah, so the seller will sell you this property for 140,000 euros, but they want 40,000 euros en B, like in cash. And so why would someone do that? Well, basically, if you're giving them 40,000 euros in cash and the rest is being paid by bank transfer, what they can essentially do is say that they sold the property for 100,000 euros, which let's say that they bought it for 100,000 euros. They would essentially have no capital gains tax to pay on that property because they only declared that they sold it for 100,000 euros. So this is not only illegal, but it's problematic in multiple ways. First, let's take this example's case, 40,000 euros in cash. Very difficult to get a hold of, and that's before, you know, questions will even start coming about where the source of this money comes from and all that kind of stuff. If you're trying to, you know, take that out of a bank, transfer it from another country, etc. Remember, if you're traveling into the EU with cash or equivalents of above 10,000 euros, then you need to make a customs declaration when you arrive in the EU country of arrival to justify basically what the funds are going to be used for and where they've come from. That said, in recent years in Spain, the legal limit for cash that is allowed to be used in transactions has been lowered to 1,000 euros. That means that for any transaction you make, you can only pay for up to 1,000 euros in cash. So of course, in the example that I've given, paying 40,000 euros in cash for the property is absolutely not legally possible. But say that somehow you managed to pull this off and you did buy it for 140,000 euros, paying 40,000 in cash and 100,000 in the bank. Let's say that one day you want to sell that property for 180,000 euros. So you've made a 40,000 euro capital gains. Well, if you do things the right way and sell that property for 180,000 euros, you're going to end up paying capital gains on 80,000 euros because the sale price that was documented by the seller would have been only 100,000 euros. So something that would definitely come back and bite you in the behind later on were you to go through with this, which absolutely you should not do it. In my opinion, if you approach a seller or an agent that comes with an offer like that to you for how to pay, I would walk right away. Like, it's really bad from both perspectives, but even worse, in my opinion, in the case of a property or estate agent who'd be willing to do that and lack the professionalism to do things the right way. So yeah, definitely don't do that. Third point is don't buy a property without negotiating on either the price or the mortgage. It can be really tempting to fall in love with a property and think that there's a lot of competition out there and you really want to secure it, but don't let a beautiful home cloud your financial judgment and make poor decisions based on, you know, emotions or how you're feeling in the moment. Because in Spain, whether it's the terms and conditions of a mortgage or the price of a property, both things can be negotiated. And if you try, you might end up getting better financial terms than you expected. You might end up getting the property for a slightly lower value, or you might end up paying slightly less on your mortgage. I think this is one of the classic examples of like little things make a big difference. Like in my case, I negotiated on the price of the property I bought. Probably could have negotiated some more. In the case of the mortgage, I had like 2 or 3 offers, but I didn't use any of them to gain leverage among the different banks, which I definitely should have done. Because yes, the mortgage I got in the end was a great deal and I got the property for a good price and financially, you know, everything is fine. But could I have paid less for the property? Probably. Could I have been paying less for my mortgage than I am today? Probably yes as well. Even if you just take the example of like 20 euros a month difference in mortgage payments, multiply that by 12, then multiply by 30 for like a 30-year mortgage. That's a 7,200 euro difference over 30 years. That's a lot of money to let go from not negotiating. So definitely give it a try. And you know, there's potential gains to be made if you're able to successfully negotiate. And last but by no means least, following on with the finance theme, is do not buy a property without knowing your numbers. Buying property in Spain is not like buying property in the UK or in the US. There are a lot of closing costs and taxes involved that are much higher than in both of these countries, and a range of costs that you might not expect to pay if you're not aware of what it is that you need to pay. I talked about this in depth in a recent video on my channel, which I'll link for you guys so that you can go and check it out. But in summary, you know, the transfer tax or the VAT is going to be a significant portion. It can be ranging from 4 to 11% depending on which region of Spain you're buying in and what kind of property you're buying and how much it's worth. Got to account for things like the notary fees, the registry fees, getting the property valued for the bank. And before you know it, in addition to the money you need for the property, whether it's, you know, to pay for it in cash or the down payment, you've got another 10 to 12% that you need to think about to cover some of these closing costs. And that's a big amount when you're talking about buying a property in Spain to overlook. You simply can't afford to overlook something like that, and it's important that you run the numbers properly. If you are thinking of buying a property in Spain and you're looking for a tool to help you run the numbers and decide what is within your financial means and what is the best financial decision for you, then be sure to go over to my website and check out my Spain property purchase cost calculator, where you can input values like the price of the home, which region of Spain it's situated in, and select your mortgage terms, and it will give you a detailed breakdown of what the expected costs would be when purchasing that property, as well as what your mortgage down payment and monthly payment and overall payment over the life of the property would be. There you go, guys. I hope you found this video interesting and helpful. Leave a comment and let me know, have you got anything else that you'd add to this list, or are there any lessons that you learned when you're buying a property in Spain? And if you like this video and you want to explore a little bit more about the costs of buying a property in Spain, then you can check out this video. And if you're interested in finding out about other aspects of living in Spain, then be sure to check out this video. Till next time, I'll see you on the next one, and let's get this money.